Hey, good morning, Lakes Community Church. Pastor Gabe checking in with you guys here from my office, otherwise known as the front seat of my truck. Hey, I am excited to share with you guys today's bit of quarantine connection. As you know, we're doing a little series on the names of God, and I just love this idea of God wanting to reveal himself to us in these different ways. We have kind of a in our English language, we have a very limited, I think, understanding and view of God based on how we read scripture in our language. And so I love being able to go back and just see God's revelation to us, specifically initially to his people Israel in the Old Testament, and revealing himself to us through his character, through his nature. And so I'm going to read for you in Exodus chapter 15. And the name that we're going to be talking about today is Yahweh Rapha, and it's the God who heals. And so, man, if ever we needed healing, right, now is the time. And God reveals himself as the one who heals here in this passage. And I'll just read it for you and then give you a couple quick thoughts afterwards. This is in verse 22 of chapter 15 of Exodus. It says, "So Moses brought Israel from the Red Sea. Then they went out into the wilderness of Shur, and they went 3 days in the wilderness and found no water. Now when they came to Marah, they could not drink the waters of Marah, for they were bitter. Therefore the name of it was called Marah. And the people complained against Moses, saying, 'What shall we drink?' So he cried out to the Lord, and the Lord showed him a tree. When he cast it into the waters were made sweet. There he made a statute and an ordinance for them, and there he tested them and said, 'If you diligently heed the voice of the Lord your God and do what is right in his sight, give ear to his commandments and keep all of his statutes, I will put none of the diseases on you which I have brought on the Egyptians, for I am the Lord who heals you,'" or that Yahweh Rapha. And so just as a quick, this is what I like to do reading scripture. I always like to try to fit myself into the narrative of the story, not as a replacement or a supplement. We're not going to get into like replacement theology or anything like we're Israel somehow as the church today, but just to get my mind sort of in the context of what's happening here. So if you can imagine with me, as an Israelite being freed from hundreds of years now of captivity in Egypt, you've just witnessed these amazing acts of God in the form of the plagues, and now you're standing, in front of this sea, and it's looking like things aren't going well. You're delivered, the sea parts, they go through. I mean, I feel like it would be hard to not be on just like a super emotional, like spiritual high at that moment, right? Like, yeah, we got this. And now we're just only a few days later, and of course, physical need has come into play, and there's a need now for water, and the people start to complain, and they finally come across this water, like they come across this river, and they're like, they got to be excited again. And then they realize, well, the water is bitter. They can't drink the water. And so they call out and they call it to God. And then, of course, in this story, we see God provides a way to make the water drinkable by literally healing the water, by fixing the water, making what was broken right, making the brokenness of nature right through his healing process. And then he talks about how he won't put any of the diseases which he brought upon the Egyptians onto them if, of course, they follow these statutes and regulations. And they had to have understood very well their need for a healer, having just watched what happened in Egypt, having just experienced pestilence and plagues and disaster and the killing of the firstborn. And I mean, they had to have understood the need very much so for a healer. And God reveals himself in this very precious moment. He says, "I'm the God who heals. I am the God who provides healing for you. You're not going to find healing in other places. You're not going to even find the substance that you need for your life to sustain you. The sustaining power of water is not even going to do anything for you unless I am the God who heals, and you recognize me as the God who heals." And so, looking forward, fast forwarding just a little bit, just because I want to real quick kind of link this into our days in life now, is Jesus. When Jesus comes on the scene, man, we see miracle after miracle after miracle of him healing. Not only just physical needs, right? He doesn't just heal physical needs, but he heals emotional needs. He heals spiritual needs and things about anxiety, where he steps in and he heals so many people. As Jesus, as the God who heals, we know that God is absolutely able and willing, even oftentimes, to heal us in places where there's brokenness. And so I just want to encourage you with that, to know that God, he is the God of healing. He wants to be known as that. He wants to be sought after as that. And to just have you take some time today to reflect on God as the ultimate healer. He's the one. He provides healing for our souls. He provides healing from the pain and the destruction from sin that we've caused. There's a healing for that, and there's a process through that. And I'm so excited for the time when we get to be rid of the sin in our lives, when God provides that ultimate just sort of cutoff of sin and all the destruction that happens from that. Until then, trust God as the healer. Think about him. Reflect on that today. When you hear these words, when you watch these videos, please take some time to reflect on them. Open the Bible for yourself. I love that we have input and influence in your life, but please don't just take our word. Get in the word for yourself. Read it, reflect on it, look into God, get to know him more for his characteristics and his nature, and draw near to him in these times. Hey, I love you guys. I cannot wait till we get back together. It's looking sooner and sooner, but feeling further and further as time goes on. I know I hope to have you guys, like me, be growing in this, and when we come together, just hear the wonderful, marvelous stories of God's work in your life, what he's done in these times, what he's doing right now, today, as you watch this video. Looking forward to seeing you guys. Have a great day. Bye.